Page 7 is simply an example of one department, and I chose the Department of Transportation. Some of the links on page 7 are old and are reflected in budget books of a few years ago, but some of them are up to date. But I'm just using them as an example of a page that you might put together for your team. So you're going to be doing some research. One team member can prepare a resource list for everyone on the team. Looking at the first heading, website for the department. This is the public face for the department. And a question that you might want to ask yourself as you're looking at the website, do you think this website is accessible? And it's interesting, some departments that I've gone to have said, have you looked at our website? And the answer is going to be yes. What do you think about it? And then you're going to be a little puzzled. But if you look at it from the point of view of how would I use it if I were about to ask for a service or get some information, then you'll have a ready answer. The annual report for the department may be on the website as well. As it turns out, the Department of Transportation a few years back did have an annual report on the website. And so I reflected that on page 7. The roster for the department. This is how to find it. We already did it. We look at lacity.org. We click the city directory and scroll down to the department and click on the phone. Reviewing the roster reveals a great deal about what the department actually does. You see how they deploy their personnel. And really, most of what happens in the city is about the people who work for the city and what they do. So this is a very important resource. The White Book. The detail of departmental programs is available, and it's in the supplement for the 2017-2018 budget, and hopefully soon, the 2018-2019 budget.
I have a question. So we were asked to call, the various people here were asked to call their councilman or someone and find out who's on their staff, but it should all be here.
There is a place to look at the council district's website, but I have to say that isn't always up to date, and it isn't necessarily going to answer your question. You really need to call the council district. What do we have here? Oh, we have a council district. Shall we show the detail of the department programs by looking at the budget? Well, yes, I think we're going to need to do that. It's a really long link. I see detail. So it's back. The other way to do it is to go back to the CAO site and click on White Book, because it's in the White Book.
Website?
Sorry?
Okay, we have a budget advocates website, and we can connect to all these links via the.
Well, if you recall, on the website where we had the video last year, we also had a list of links to go to the various pages, and there will be a similar list of links on the website once it's posted after the training. So yeah, that would be an alternative for sure. Just any place in the white book, supplement, right there, any place, good. Okay, scrolling down. That's where there's a list of departments, and you can choose a department, or just, why don't you just scroll down a few pages and get to any old department.
I think those department links are hyperlinked.
Okay, Board of Public Works. You can see we have regular positions. Look over at 5-year position authority history. You have regular positions, and you have resolution positions. For a total number of positions right now of 105, or for last year, for 105. You can see where their total budget is for the entire Public Works Board and what comes from the general fund, which is about 3/4, or 78% now, and what comes from the special funds. Now, looking at that, a question that I might want to ask, unless I can find out by scrolling down a few more pages, is what's the special fund? How is that revenue generated? I suspect the answer will be there, but if it's not there, it's a good question to ask if you were going to meet with the managers of the Board of Public Works. Sources of funds. Plenty of funds. Woo, look at them all. Okay, let's move on. And we went to the controller's site, but we can go to lacontroller.org, adoptive budgets. And see how we can find the department. And click on the budget book. And again, this is last year. There are 568 pages there. We want to see an index. The interesting thing about this index, this table of contents, if you'll go down to departments, please.
You know what, sorry?
A little bit further. Some departments are here under budgetary departments, and then if you scroll down further, and some departments are here, are their special funds to supplement their own revenues. And then there are non-department expenditures and lots of other information. Note that if I were going to be meeting with library, I'd probably want to scroll down and see where library appears everywhere in this index and look at every page. And while we're looking at the index, one of the things that I do is to print, because usually I'm the chair of the committee, so I print the budget pages, however many there are. There might be 5, there might be 20, but I print them. And I look at the pages and highlight things that I might be asking questions about, and then I take a post-it and I put it to the side if I think I'm going to be referring to that item during the meeting so that I can find it quickly.
And there's also a way, I mean,
Sorry?
just to put it out, there's also a way, because I use the Mac, so I don't know how to do it like on a non-Mac, but you can just put like whatever item you're searching for, like example library, it pulls up every word that shows up like.
Oh, really?
Control area.
Makes it easier.
Yeah, it's just case for those who might not
There
be
he
aware
goes.
of that.
Doing it right now, as we speak, live.
Do what?
And then
You
it
can
tells
create
you-
a
Oh, there's
library.
50, okay,
Yeah,
there's
57
57 instances, it says up
Okay. Ooh, I didn't know that.
there. And where do you hit, you search, where's the search?
Control F.
Control it.
Oh, control F.
Fine.
The next item is budget summary. This is a booklet. It's a smallish booklet, and it's about this size, maybe 20 pages. And the interesting thing about this booklet is it is a true summary of what's happening with the city budget. And there are some pie charts, like so much of the city budget goes to police and fire, and then what's left over goes to other departments. And that's from the general fund revenues, except that most departments, not every department, but most have some funds coming in from other sources. Could be grants, could be paying for the services that you are receiving. Last year's budget report. Do you know how to find last year's budget report? Connie?
I have a question. You said that first, the fire department and police or whatever, get paid first or get allocated, get their allocations first. I thought we were going by percentages. There's a percentage, pie.
No, I wasn't saying they are priority first in line. It's just that they have, maybe it's even 75% of the budget. It's a huge
Yeah.
proportion of the budget.
But they have to stay within that content, within that containment. They cannot get more.
No, they have to stay within what the mayor and city council will tell them they have to stay.
Well, you know, it's really interesting that you should bring that up. I met with the police department 2 years ago, and the police department had gone over its budget. What happened is they did too many training classes early in the fiscal year, so they got ahead of their budget. So what happened? The CIO is responsible for the budget of the departments and reports to the city council and the mayor. Well, the CIO went to the police department and said, you have to make an adjustment. You have to move some funds from someplace to cover those trainings because you're ahead of budget. So all of that negotiation, all of what happened would be included in that quarterly FSR. Did I answer your question, kind of?
Yeah.
Okay.
One thing I like to do when I'm looking at the before meeting is I like to look at the white pages going back maybe 2 or 3 years to see if there's any big changes in allocations within the department.
Right, right. And that's good because you want the department to be flexible and to meet the immediate needs and keep current with what's happening. So, yeah, and those changes no doubt were reflected in FSRs unless they were reflected in the next year's budget. So you know where to find the budget advocates reports. They're behind the first 8 pages or so of the white paper. The white paper. Has everyone looked at a white paper? Do you know what they look like? No. Can you just give this to Evelyn for a moment? Let's talk about meeting with departments because this, I think, is the big task that you're really going to need to focus on for the next couple of months. First, setting up the meeting. You need a confirmed meeting date with the department you are to meet with by September 7th, less than a month from today. You need to start early to make that appointment, because it may take several calls, several emails before you actually get a meeting confirmed. So also keep in mind that the department managers' calendars fill up quickly. So they may have have trouble getting a date when each of the managers they want you to be meeting with is available. So call early, start early, schedule the meeting before the end of October, and report to the executive committee by September 7th of what the meeting date actually is. Yes?
Yeah, but isn't there a person that's in charge, like, you know, like you were saying, you're usually the head person or whatever, so like, I know I was paired up with someone for housing and for DONE.
That's a good question. Look in the report for last year, see who the attendees
Who was at
were
that
from the
meeting?
department, and you could call one of those attendees. However, what we have written here is you go to the department's roster, you know how to find it,
I'm talking about our group,
and you call the executive assistant.
I'm talking about our group right here,
Oh.
right? Like, there was some woman that I was paired up with at one of the meetings and said, you've been assigned housing and DONE. And it's like, okay, great, and she's been a veteran here as a budget advocate. So we should be communicating, and one person should call the department.
Oh,
to the
absolutely.
meeting, correct?
Absolutely.
Okay, so.
Right.
we
You need to
need
decide.
connect.
The way it is right now, there are 2 team members. So
One
the
is
2
the
of you
lead.
need to decide who's going to call. You don't want to be both calling. You're right.
So,
You're right.
okay, so that's the first step.
So when will those lists be finalized? I understood that they're still in flux or something, or from the meeting.
I think they're still looking at a few things.
So by,
We're meeting as an executive committee on Saturday. So maybe that will be it. I would surely expect that you would have all that you need that's confirmed by our next meeting.
Our next meeting is a week from Saturday, right? Our next meeting is the 18th.
Sorry?
Our next meeting is the 18th, so we should know by then.
Yeah, a week from Saturday.
Is that only the executive committee or?
No,
Executive committee is this Saturday.
Oh, sorry.
But
The budget advocates meet the 3rd Saturday.
Okay.
Oh, so obviously, when you're talking to your team member, you're going to want to check their availability too, because you don't want to schedule a meeting when he or she is on vacation. Now, your meetings are going to be during the day. I don't know any department that's going to meet evenings or Saturdays. When you call, state that you're calling from the Neighborhood Council Budget Advocates and requesting to meet with the general manager and budget manager for 1.5 hours. Some departments will say, oh no, we just schedule for an hour. No, you need to say you will need 1.5 hours. I've been in meetings that have lasted 3 hours, but I don't expect many meetings do last that long. The larger departments may request that you meet not with the general manager, but with the deputies. For instance, the planning department, ordinarily we meet with the 3 deputies. Now, there are plenty of ways that the departments work this out. When I met with the Bureau of Engineering last year, they had 3 of their top managers, and the general manager came in for about 10-15 minutes, which was really neat. It's really nice that you can meet with the general manager, but it may not happen. You may be meeting with deputies. When you look at the last report, make a note of the names of the department managers who you met with previously, because you may be asked by the executive assistant who that was, and you'll have those names ready.
So are we to get the prior year contacts, even if we're on different committees?
Yeah.
Then
Look at the prior report. Now, there are some departments for which you will find no report. Look back a year or 2 and see if there's a report for that department from the year before or the year before that.
When you say look back, you mean to the white paper?
In the white paper.
Got it.
likely, the person you're speaking with, the executive assistant, will request that you send an email describing who you are and whom you wish to meet with and what it's about. It's up to you. You may attach the talking points, the non-departmental, but rather the general talking points to give them an idea, or you may summarize those talking points in the questions. Let them know that you will be asking questions about the concerns and issues that you know our neighborhoods have, because you've seen them at Budget Day, at the retreat, when we sent them out this last week about the regional budget days. You'll have many documents you can look at so that you can identify, and you know, because you live in your neighborhoods, you'll know what the concerns are. Continue to call if they don't respond within a day or two until you receive confirmation of the time, date, location, and what the parking arrangements are. Not every one of our departments meet here at City Hall or City Hall East. Some of them are located on, I think it's Broadway, over on Figueroa. There are, 7th Street. There are departments located in many different locations.
Just be aware that in some of those leased buildings, the parking fees can be leased.
Yeah, the parking fees can be as high as $20 if you're meeting at the housing department. Ask the co-chairs for help if you're not getting the response that you need about setting up a meeting date. And then again, advise the Budget Advocate Executive Committee by September 7th of what the confirmed meeting date is. And of course, you're going to advise those people who are on your team of the meeting date as well. How to assure a good report. This is important because you can have a meeting, you can chit-chat, and have not much information for your report. So aside from looking at the talking points, which in themselves probably would assure a good report, I'm going to say what you need is the 3 P's. That's the letter P. Prepare, prepare, and prepare. Know the department. Know what to ask. First, understand the services that the department provides. Look at, review, take notes, maybe print, as I do, for reference during the meeting, what I might need to refer to during that meeting. And these are the sites: the department's website, the roster, this year's budget, previous reports, things in the news or on the internet, pending motions that are being considered by city council and committees, the concerns and issues of our neighborhoods. The departmental meeting will move quickly. You will be working off your talking points. It's very important to ensure you cover everything you might want to include in your report. You are going to be leading the meeting. It's not the department who will be leading the meeting, because you're the people who need the information. And that's why you need to get through the talking points. Take excellent notes. Be comprehensive. Everyone who's present takes notes. And after the meeting, sends those notes to the writer, but only after reviewing them. Even if you ask to record and they okay it, still take your quality notes, because just when you expect to rely upon that recording, it may fail. So be sure you take the notes. Indicate in your notes who said what, so you can go back and ask that person, be it a budget advocate or someone in the department, and ask that person more about what was said if you need it. Review your notes immediately after the meeting so that you can fill in what else you remember that isn't in your notes. Later, when you're ready to do the report, maybe it's days or weeks later, highlight in your notes and the notes that you get from others, those topics, quotes, and facts that you may want to include in your report. Then you are ready to start writing the discussion section of the report. It really helps to go through your notes and pick and choose what it is you want to include as you begin writing your report. Preparing for the departmental meeting. Consider the concerns and issues identified at the retreat, the budget day, the regional budget day, and from your neighborhood councils. Consult with team members, share your resources, agree on questions to ask as part of your final talking points. Put together your final talking points. Those are the ones that are not just the talking points here in your book, but include the talking points around the concerns and issues that you expect to talk about during the meeting. Assure you have necessary information for your report. I said it before, I'm saying it again. You can update your report before the white paper goes to press. Let's say that you write your report, you submit it, it's reviewed, you get it back, and all of a sudden there's a huge thing in the news that you think ought to be included, like the DROP program for the fire and police departments last year. Update your report. You can update it before the white paper goes to press. Address issues related to the theme budget advocates have chosen for the white paper. We don't have a theme, but one of the themes is always in these years going to be homelessness. So cover that in your report. If you're meeting with one of the very many departments that actually have a role related to homelessness. In advance, team members will need to agree who will lead the meeting and move the agenda. It's so important to get the agenda going. Let's say you're in a meeting and you're talking and you're looking at your list of talking points, and someone asks a question. You know what? That's your opportunity, if you're leading the meeting, to get ready for that next question so that you know at that point what has already been covered and you know what has yet to be covered. So you get ready when someone else is talking to get your next question. And of course, at the very same time, you're taking notes.
Hopefully you're listening, yeah. I was gonna say.
Yes, you're listening, you're taking notes, you're going, oh yeah, I have to go there. And in advance, in addition to who's going to lead the meeting and move the agenda, you need to decide who will write the draft of the report. Could be the same person, could be someone else. Each attendee takes notes, I'm saying it again, and someone may ask to record for accuracy. The reason that you ask for recording is so that you can accurately reflect in your report what is being said. Carol.
This year, as you know, there are really only 2 people on your committee, although there might be other people attending, but it's very important. Speaking as someone who's probably going to be one of the editors of the white paper, again, as I was last year, I mean, it's very important that you decide in the beginning who is going to write the report. It may be that between the 2 of you, neither one of you wants to write the report. That's the problem. And you need to address it in the beginning and not wait until November or December and not have a written report. That's not going to work. So if you find that between the 2 of you, neither one of you really wants to write the report or has time to write the report, talk to the co-chairs as soon as that issue comes up so that someone else can be assigned to write your report. It's just really important that you deal with that in the beginning.
When does the report have to be completed?
It's in the calendar that Liz gave us. It's pretty quick, I think, October, November, whenever.
We'll get to that.
Okay, sorry. And just clarify, in past meetings that I've gone to, there've been quite a few people, but this year, maximum 3, right?
We'll get to that too.
Okay.
Agree to meet briefly, both before and after the meeting. I'll tell you what I do. If I have someone, if I'm the chair and I have someone on a committee that or several on the committee, I never even let them know what time I'm actually going to be meeting with the department. Let's say we're meeting at 2 o'clock, for example. What I tell others is we're meeting at 1:45. We'll have a short meeting, and often it's a stand-up meeting, or maybe a sitting in the waiting area of the department. And we will talk, or maybe it's just outside the department's double doors, but we will talk for 15 minutes before the meeting and just go over everything that is going to happen during the meeting. And intend to meet after the meeting for another 15 minutes or so, ordinarily a stand-up meeting outside those double doors for the department, and go over the issues that you think should result in recommendations. And it probably will be that you'll come up with 2 or 3 right then and there before you even look at your notes. And when you look at your notes, you may have other recommendations as well. And keep in mind that you may want to add recommendations as you draft your report, which is likely, and even as you come up with additional information about what the department does or what the concerns about the department are. 2 days prior to meeting with the department, and of course that's approximate, you should reconfirm the date, time, place, and parking arrangements with team members and with the department, making sure that they're still expecting you and everything is going as planned, and let the team members know again that you are meeting for 15 or more minutes in advance of the meeting to go over the plan. Provide the department with the names and number of budget advocates expected to attend, and include final talking points if you have them. Sometimes I send the final talking points the very morning of an afternoon meeting. I think they should have them in advance and be thinking about them. But I don't want department managers to be giving us pat answers. I want it pretty extemporaneous, unless, of course, the question involves asking for lots of facts or figures. They can always provide facts to back up their answers later if you need them. But I want a discussion as opposed to the department giving you a report. Meeting with the department. We said before, be prepared, dress professionally, important to arrive early. Bring notepads and copies of the final talking points with you for each of the people who might be attending. Confer with the budget advocates or budget representatives who are attending at the set time before the meeting, reviewing the plan. Expect that departments will have 1 to 4 senior managers in attendance. Managers will be prompt, and they will leave on schedule because it seems like they always have another meeting behind your meeting. The meeting will be in a conference room. Managers may see the meeting as an opportunity for outreach. Well, that is good and bad. Sure, you want to know the breadth of their services, but you may need to politely explain you have a number of questions to go over. So, and that you've already looked at the website, the budget pages, and everything else that you've looked at, so that they will see that you are really intent upon confining your conversation to budget matters. Now, you may have to listen to a little bit of what they have to say. I will tell you, 2 years ago, meeting with the new general manager of the Department of Transportation, she had a presentation that was a video followed by maybe 15 minutes of verbal stuff. And we had to very politely move the agenda so that we could get the questions answered. Let's see.
That's their way of making sure you guys are all up to date. I
that's making
I mean,
what?
I'm sure she did that because she wanted to make sure you were aware of everything that she was doing. 'Cause they don't necessarily know how prepared you're coming in, right?
Well, I'm sure they have a purpose, and really, for instance, with the Building and Safety Committee, they had, I think, 5 people at the last meeting I went to, which was year before last, which really was an extraordinary number, but we had 6 budget advocates, and actually the meeting was not bad. It was, in fact, excellent, because once we got through the agenda, and we did, despite it looking, despite a slight protest from the general manager who said, well, we're going to get through all of this, we did get through it all, and there was time to spare, and the other people who were present had questions related to building and safety that were very relevant. They were community issues. They got lots of answers, and it was a terrific meeting. 6 people. Let's speak a moment about building a good relationship for budget advocates with the departments, about being respectful. You are representing the budget advocates. So you want to first demonstrate you have prepared for the meeting, that you've done the research, and you do this by referring to the questions that you're going to ask that relate to the department, by tailoring those talking points that are relevant to the department, by knowing who you are meeting with, their names and titles, because you found them on the department's roster. So you already know who you're going to be talking to. The executive assistant is going to say, you will be meeting with da 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 da, and you'll get those names, and you'll know what areas they're responsible for, so you'll know who you're talking to. Show respect by your professional behavior and your dress, by being on time, by listening carefully, by never being rude, by running your report once it's drafted by the department for accuracy, asking if there may be errors, updates, or additions, and by capturing the spirit of the meeting in your report. I remember writing a report about building safety where the executive officer became the general manager, and he had a new mission statement, a new purpose for the department. Well, it wasn't really new, it was modified, but I was able to quote him in the report, and I really think that that was respectful. And that I would consider as capturing what happened in the moment, and it just is a good idea. You'll find something to demonstrate that you were present in the meeting. Information for your report. Oh, I think I already mentioned that you ask for permission to record. Some departments will say, we prefer not, so you won't. Some departments will say, sure, you need it for accuracy? Sure. But nonetheless, again, take complete notes. You'll be doing your introductions, sharing your calling cards, I hope we have them in time, and handing out the final talking points as the meeting begins. The information for your report. Focus on and frame your questions around what you wish to include in your report. Ask open-ended questions. Let them talk. Avoid multi-sentence questions that require yes or no answers. That will get you no information for your report. So open-ended is where to go. Have a global perspective when you ask your questions while using specifics as examples. You may have had an experience with a department that was not pleasant. You didn't get the information you wanted, or it was misinterpreted, or they simply said no to your request. That's not what you're going to ask. You're going to frame your question in a global sense. What happens when you do this or that? You know, how do you get the best answer? And then you might say, I had this experience, but I need to know how to move forward in a more effective way. Strive for discussion on each and every talking point, including those on neighborhood concerns. Avoid giving your own opinions. You are leading the meeting. Let the department know your team has come prepared. You've looked at the website, you've looked at the pages in the budget book, you've read the prior reports, and some of your questions will come from those reports, from those recommendations. Were they able to implement them, or are they considering them? You've looked at their rosters. You know the department before you meet with them. You're going to refer to your printed material as appropriate. You're going to go through the talking points in any order. There's no specific order. You're not going to just read from a list because things are going to follow. One talking point will lead to another talking point in whichever order it comes up. Keep with the flow of the meeting. Keep the meeting moving. Keep on track. Keep track of time and what talking points have yet to be covered. Using a bright marker helps. When I'm looking at the talking points, I'm going to mark what hasn't been covered so I'll know what I can go to next or later. Be sure to ask how budget advocates can assist the department. Ask whom to contact to follow up, to get follow-up. It's okay to call later should some of your talking points not be covered, or should you need additional clarifications, or you have something new that comes up, or you're questioning the accuracy of some of the facts for your report. It's okay to call for clarifications, and you'll want to know who to contact. After the meeting, you're going to be immediately meeting with the budget advocates, maybe budget representatives as well, who attended. Suggest recommendations at that point. They can be modified and added to later. And then send copies of your notes to the person who's going to be writing the report. Send a thank you email, which is best done together if you're going to follow up with the department on unanswered questions or asking for clarifications or documents the department may have offered. Prepare your draft report. This can be covered on pages 11 to 14 in this book. Ask budget advocates attending and on the team for feedback and recommendations after the draft report is prepared. Share the report with the department for accuracy. You may share it at this point, or you might want to show it to the budget advocates, and we'll cover that a little later, and then share it. Keep in mind that recommendations are for budget advocates to make, not for budget representatives to determine, but they may offer suggestions and may or may not align with the department's budget requests. You don't want to make a list just echoing what the department has asked for. That's not what we're here to do. We're here to ask for things that our neighborhoods need and to offer support for things that are important to our neighborhoods that the department is already requesting. The Budget and Finance Committee hearings come out after the mayor has released his budget, and they occur at the end of April and early May. The department writes a letter to the committee after that mayor's budget is released, and then they attempt to further their budget requests. If they've requested 10 things and 8 are approved, they may choose, for instance, 1 to provide additional information about that request so that the Budget and Finance Committee might, in the end, approve that request as well. You may ask the department for a copy of that letter, or you can look it up on the CAO's website. And if you talk to the department, you can ask them how budget advocates might assist with their request. Then, as appropriate, you may write a letter or appear, preferably on the day the department is meeting with the Budget and Finance Committee, but it could be any day. And you can say that you met with the department as a budget advocate, but unless you are specifically authorized to speak for the budget advocates, you must say that you are speaking as an individual even while you have met with the department as a budget advocate. The CAO has suggested that you assure the Budget and Finance Committee has the department's report before the date the department actually meets with the committee. The CAO has also suggested that you submit your recommendations early in the budget process. Here's another one. That you appear, that you assure the department has, that the Budget and Finance Committee has your report regarding the department before the department appears before the city. In other words, you might send it again to the Budget and Finance Committee the day before they actually appear before the department actually appears before the Budget and Finance Committee. The Budget and Finance Committee asks for many, up to 100 report backs, maybe more report backs on matters they feel they need more information on before they decide if it's something they want to add to the budget. You can check those report backs. They appear on the CAO's website. If it's appropriate, you could appear before the City Council to advocate for something that you believe is essential for that department. The CAO receives a copy of the recommendations that the budget advocates have made, an entire list. In fact, there's an entire list in the white paper of recommendations. They receive that in advance, and then they go to the individual departments and they say, what about this? Well, what about that? And then they do a report back to us, and it's also on their website. And they advise as to each budget recommendation, whether this is a new proposal, whether it's